Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Gary Halleck, a business relations consultant with the state of Michigan, Michigan Rehabilitation Services. And we're going to start out today's presentation with a little bit of housekeeping. We are using the Zoom platform. Please exercise patience, especially with technology. Ask questions throughout the event in the chat section of your Zoom interface. Time is reserved at the end of the event to answer those questions, and we will kind of gather those questions throughout so we can ask those at the end. Closed captioning is available by selecting the CC closed caption button and then show subtitles. And if you're having difficulty through Zoom, please contact Zoom for technical assistance via the Zoom Help Center. So today's business spotlight is on Morley. Morley is a Saginaw-based company that supports Fortune 500 companies with many different needs that they might have. We are joined today by Ryan Winberg, Morley's talent acquisition supervisor. He has been with Morley for 2.5 years. Previous to Morley, Ryan served as a college admissions recruiter for nearly a decade and earned his Bachelor's of Science degree in science education. We're also joined by Amy Fee, who has been with Morley for 4 years and supported all roles and aspects of the talent acquisition team since she joined the team in 2019. She is currently the talent acquisition manager. She received her Bachelor's of Arts in Communications and Master's of Public Administration from Saginaw Valley State University. Thank you, Amy, and thank you, Ryan, for joining us today.
Of course. Thanks for that introduction, Gary. Appreciate it. Excited to get things kicked off with everybody. Ryan and I are going to go back and forth a bit throughout our presentation to give you some more insight of what Morley is. I feel like sometimes it feels like a mystery a little bit. We do have 4 different buildings in Saginaw, so we're seen from a visual aspect, but as far as what we do behind the scenes and in those buildings and virtually on our global kind of enterprise, if you will, is a bit of a mystery. So excited to dive into that with you all today. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, and to shed a little bit of light on that mystery right up front, just a brief history. So Morley actually started as a hardware store 160 years ago in downtown Saginaw. And since then, we've grown and changed pretty significantly. Today, we have around 2,500 associates, and that number is continually growing. We have several locations throughout Saginaw and some regional offices throughout the country, and basically Morley provides services to other businesses, several Fortune 500 companies, and we provide these services in 3 main areas. One is what we call meetings and incentives, another is business process outsourcing, and a third is exhibits and displays. And we're going to dive into all 3 of those in a little bit here. But in addition, we also have several internal teams: human resources, accounting, creative, IT, administration support. So all of our programs and associates are very heavily supported by those groups internally. And today we do business with, I believe, 48 Fortune 500 and Global 500 companies. And in our 160 years, we've managed to stay family owned.
So with all these different things that we do, we also serve in a lot of different industries. So just to name a couple of those, we focus heavily in automotive, the financial and insurance industry, as well as healthcare, pharmaceutical, and then also media, publishing, and advertising. Again, there's many more beyond that, so it's quite a bit. So because of our diverse services that we are able to offer our client base, though, we can roll with the ever-changing economic environments that we're seeing and really truly be a stable force for our associates and our clients. So obviously these past 3 years have been very interesting for a lot of businesses and just humans alike. So while 2020 was really tough for many businesses and we were impacted as well, we also were able to bring on a handful of brand new clients during that time, though, even though it was really tough and challenging times due to our diverse nature. So pretty interesting. Not a lot of companies were able to do that just because a lot of times they're kind of single threaded, or maybe might have a couple different focuses, but with having so many vast areas that we're able to support, we're able to bring on those new clients. So something we're excited about.
Yeah, and another reason that we've lasted as long as we have is because our mission is to deliver extraordinary experiences. We strive to do that every day with everyone we come in contact with, whether it's a candidate applying for one of our customer service jobs, and we want to make sure that their application experience is extraordinary. We want to make sure that our associates are well taken care of and that they have a great experience. And just as importantly, we want to make sure that we are taking care of our clients and our clients' customers. And so we want everyone to have an extraordinary experience with Morley.
And we have three main values that really center us, if you will, that help that mission and value come to life, I suppose, with these values. So the three ones, as you can see here, family comes first, do what's right, and be your best self. I just want to touch on each of these, and Ryan and I are going to go through an example, not just, okay, yep, great, every company has these, checkpoints, perfect, but really how we've experienced and lived these and see these on a pretty frequent basis throughout our company, these values that we experience. So just to touch on family comes first, our Morley family truly does come first. We take care of each other, support each other, and enrich each other's lives. So an example that came to mind for me earlier last year, one of our team members was working on revamping their basement. It was going to be the coolest man cave ever was his goal and focus there. And we had just incredible waters that had come through, and his basement had flooded, unfortunately. So our team were able to collect monies and were able to provide their family hundreds of dollars for repair, not because anyone told us to or asked us to, just truly because he's one of our family members and we take care of one another.
Yeah, and in addition to that, we always try to do what's right. We keep our word. We are open, honest, ethical, and fair. Something that's really big in the recruitment area these days across the world are taking steps to remove an unconscious bias. So you may see someone's name and make some assumptions about them, or you may learn their gender or their race and have these kind of unconscious biases that are impacting your decision. So we're actually taking steps to remove those unconscious biases from very early in the process. So we are just looking at someone's experience and not inferring anything from all these other details. So we are using that as a way to remain ethical and fair in our hiring practices.
And then finally, be your best self. So we set associates up for success from day one. We give you the tools, the authority that you need to do our job, to do your job, all of it well, I suppose. And our leaders are there to support you in your journey. So with most all of our roles, everyone comes into a training period, which is paid training for 6 to 8 weeks for all of our new hires. So this training is developed specifically with our client and it's extremely thorough to really set team members up for success from day one, like I mentioned. We also have continuous training and learning opportunities. It doesn't just stop there. If you're someone who wants to be a future leader or continue to grow into a quality assessor role or trainer position, or the list is abundant. We do have those continuous opportunities. So one of our classes, for example, internally is called Foundations of Leadership. So our organizational development team has built and continues to grow and change and adapt that content for future leaders so you can be ready and understand what good habits really need to be built to be a great leader in that way. We also have for our current leaders, gold level 1, gold level 2 is what we say, is what they're referred to as, where it touches on crucial conversations, and servant leadership is really how we like to serve here. And you'll hear those buzzwords pretty consistently throughout our world, if you will. So now that we've gotten kind of a little bit of a ground coverage here, if you will, of who we are and what our background is, let's specifically dive into those different areas. Ryan had mentioned earlier, those three main focuses that we have. So I wanted to specifically start with the meetings and incentives that was noticed before. So this is where we create experiences on a ton of different types of scales. So this picture here, everything that you can see, we had designed, created, provided for this client, and do this on scales, whether it be for 6 very high level C-suite type individuals and they're having a series of meetings that we lay out for them, or we have a 3,000 person meeting or event in Las Vegas, for example, for individuals across the globe. We would do everything from start to finish that you can think of to really bring these people together from across the world in the United States, where they can learn more about their company they're working for, maybe new strategies that are coming up, and celebrate different successes that they've had recently to truly come away inspired. So, like I mentioned, I'm gonna throw a lot of words at you here, and if you're not in the meeting and event industry, they might not make a ton of sense, but I'll break them down as well. So, like I mentioned, everything from beginning to end. So all the travel planning, the site selection, vendor contracting, participant management, on-site execution, and financial management too. So what all of that again means to say is a client will come to us, and let's pretend that Nike came to us. They're not one of our clients today, but most people know what Nike is. If they said, hey, Morley, we're wanting to send our top 5,000 sales associates to Hawaii for a week. Can you just plan and manage that whole thing for us? That'd be really great. We'd appreciate it. So we obviously, there's a lot of partnership and communication with the client and what their vision is and what that's looking like, but we take it from there and run with it. So everything from building the website their team members would RSVP onto, we design and create that entire space and experience in site or in-house from Morley. We book all of the hotels, all of the flights, every piece of transportation someone would need. If they're having different activities they can participate on site, we figure out what those are, book them ahead of time, make sure they're ready to go. Maybe there'll be a guest artist or surprise group or band that will be performing. We would book them independently as well, down to even if the CEO were coming on site to do a presentation in front of, again, their entire organization, Morley would actually hand write the script for them. So kind of the feeling and excitement throughout the entirety of their experience from start to finish is threaded through the entire way. Even down to the tiny, minute examples you might not even think of, as far as having Nike branded ice cubes during cocktail hour. Our team would think of every single piece of what their experience would look like. So to provide you some more details on what types of experience, types of team members that help to create these experiences, we'll hop onto our next slide here a bit.
Yeah, so in addition to that very elaborate picture that Amy painted for you, we have a lot of different kinds of programs or experiences that we will put together for our clients, from group and individual travel incentives, business meetings, training programs, smaller meetings, customer loyalty and satisfaction programs, as well as employee incentives, recognition, and training. So all of these, our meetings and incentives group will work tirelessly to put together, and they'll put the same level of care as they would in a small meeting as they would in a huge event. But there are a ton of different roles within meetings and incentives that all come together to make these possible.
So there's obviously a couple handfuls of roles here. I'm more than happy to have you read through, but I do want to just highlight a couple of different ones that we see pretty frequently and reoccurring. So trip director, for example, this is a very, very flexible scheduling role. They essentially travel around the country and even internationally to help these meetings come to life and actually serve on site. So they're serving our clients on, hands-on, greeting guests at the airport, checking in guests at the hotel, guiding participants to different events. And this role is 100% travel based. So very interesting. If you like to be on the road, it could be a really great role for you. The account manager, this is where we see much more of our seasoned team members. So they work as the client liaison, almost, if you will, the liaison, between our clients. So Nike in this example, who has this vision and dream, and then they're providing all that insight over to our operations team who actually makes this vision come to life. So as you can imagine, the account manager role, it's a heavy sales focus, and the account management background and experience of creating extravagant events on behalf of large organizations is something we really seek and look for in those types of positions. And that role is 50% travel based, so still getting out there quite a bit. Whereas our program and technical administrators, for example, they're more of a hands-on team who work on site here in our Saginaw location. And these team members create the name badges, the invitation cards that are mailed and sent out to attendees, create schedules and so on for the different events. So these roles are just 10 to 15% travel based, again, more hands-on and focused here in Saginaw. But we are actually currently looking for a program administrator at the moment. So if anyone has interest, let us know. We'd love to connect on that.
The second group of the three is business process outsourcing, which we just refer to as BPO, but it is easiest to think of this as customer service. So BPO is our largest focus. It actually makes up about 75% of our business, and 75% of our time and our effort goes into this group. So our BPO group, we're essentially providing customer service on behalf of our clients. So with our automotive client, maybe a vehicle owner is experiencing some problems with their car. So they call customer service, and unbeknownst to them, they get somebody at Morley. And we have the training and the resources and everything to be able to resolve their problem. And in our BPO group, the customer experience is our passion, and it shapes absolutely everything that we do. Our frontline agents are really the most important part of our teams. They're the reason that we can deliver our amazing customer experiences. And they do that via multiple channels through inbound and outbound calls, web chats, email, text messages. And in order to be able to do that, we have a very strong training program, as Amy mentioned earlier, to help these agents learn the program material and the skills to interact successfully with customers. We train them how to interact with empathy, and we give them the power to take care of customers' needs. Our agents, we like to think, turn college challenges into positive encounters, leaving our customers feeling good about working with us and feeling a greater connection with our clients. And our team genuinely makes a difference in our customers' day. And because of that approach, we are extremely proud to have been recognized with service awards from clients on 3 different continents, as well through third parties such as Consumer Reports.
So a question we might see here is, well, okay, it sounds like a huge part of your business, a huge focus. What are some of those roles that we see, and specifically that it could have in this type of environment? So some of the consistent roles that we're looking to fill is in the BPO space, with Brian mentioning, again, it's one of our most rapidly growing areas and is our largest focus as an organization. So some of our customer help desk roles, technical help desk roles as well, sales and marketing support chats too. A lot of different areas and options as you can see there. I'll let you guys kind of read through that a bit, but we operate those contact centers and case processing centers to essentially help customers, dealers, and other service personnel too. Now, as far as what the entire gamut of these roles and technicalities look like from an internal perspective, we'll jump into that too on this next slide here. So our automotive customer service representative, healthcare customer service, and part-time customer service roles are, just to name a few, of our entry-level positions that we see pretty frequently. On the right-hand side, you can see there are some opportunities that are more growth, internal opportunities, if you will. So naturally, if someone's interested in being a leader at some point or has some leadership background, they can transition into a team lead type of position, which could then move into an operations supervisor, operations manager, site director. The list goes on. Or if leadership specifically is like, hey, I want to continue to grow, but I'm really not a huge, I don't want to be in charge of other people constantly. I don't want direct reports. There's a lot of, things that come with that. We have training opportunities. We have real-time adjuster opportunities. We have quality advisor opportunities where you're giving that mentorship and coaching still, but you don't have any direct reports. So a lot of different avenues to continue to grow and transition through with Morley in those types of facets within BPO.
And our third group, we call exhibits and displays, where their motto is, "You dream it, we build it." So you can see from the picture here, this is from a trade show, and this was a display that we put together for restoration hardware. Everything you see sort of on this square here, Morley meticulously designed and put together for that trade show. So with something like this, we bring our clients' visions to life, whether they just have a message to relay or a curriculum to teach or a brand to promote. And we do that whether it is a temporary installation like a trade show, or it could be a permanent exhibit. Our job is to take care of all of the tactical details and create the experiences so that clients can focus really more on the strategy. We provide the design, the fabrication, and installation, as well as asset management.
My clicker wasn't clicking for a second. That was really stressful. We made it, you guys. We're here. So again, going into then some of those different industries and areas that we supply some these experiences for, if you will. We create, again, those very extravagant displays, like we were mentioning before, for our clients, and have won many awards for our work as well. As recently as last month, the booth that our team put together for an expo and conference in Las Vegas won the Best of Show award. So just, again, super, super proud of what our team does. And as you can imagine, these roles work very closely. The exhibits and displays piece and our meetings and incentives piece, they're very similar, but quite different as well. So we don't just handle those external requests that our clients might come in and have us do, as far as, different museum exhibits or for schools or for auto shows and such. But we also handle a lot of internal needs too. So if our talent acquisition team is attending a career fair, our meetings and incentive, or our meetings and incentives team is looking to provide more visual experiences during those events, like we saw on that slide earlier with the stage beautiful and all the colors and everything. That's where our exhibits and displays teams comes into place there. So some of the more local and recent work that we've done in the past, that might be notable, I suppose, or helpful to be aware of. We've done work for the Smithsonian Museum in the past. We do have some work currently in local children's museums here in the Saginaw Bay City area. And then we do have some current museum exhibits in Detroit as well. But you would have no idea. It's all interesting. This is, again, probably why no one knows what Morley does, because we don't stamp our name on it, right? It looks like as if the client's doing it, and that's the intention behind it.
Yeah, and some of the specific roles within exhibits and displays you can see here. There's obviously a lot of design that goes into these displays, but there is also, just a lot of, craftsmanship that goes into them too. So if you have a lot of trade, hands-on experiences, welders, pipe fitters, carpenters, we have a need for those in this group, and all of these roles work very closely together to make these displays come to life.
So obviously that's a lot that Morley does, right? But we're unpacking a lot together here. So thanks for your patience as we get through all of this. But that's not the end, friends. We're just tipping the iceberg, it seems like, a little bit. So naturally, there's a lot of internal support as well, right? All of these business areas of ours can't just stand up and do all those alone. They need a lot of support from many different functions. So our account managers work on our sales team to even be able to work with these large clients of ours. They focus and handle all the sales. We obviously have a human resources team. Ryan and I here, right, supporting talent acquisition. We also have our human resources consultant function, our organizational development function, and payroll and benefits that all reside kind of under this human resources umbrella in our minds. IT, so we have our software developers, different help desks, IT help desk individuals. If you're more entry level but are wanting to continue to grow in your IT experience and knowledge base there. From a marketing standpoint, I think of our recruitment marketers who help to put all of our ads and all of our insights out there for who we are and what we do, and digital marketing, and the list goes on and on. From a creative perspective, we have production managers, art directors, designers, graphic designers, proofreaders, writers, and editors, corporate communications. It's pretty much anything you can think of from an internal aspect. And we have a few more Ryan's going to touch on too.
Yeah, and with administration, we have program and technical administrators, particularly in our meetings and incentives groups. We obviously have an accounting department with billers. We have various enterprise services, so like a compliance officer is a big part of that. We have a lot of facilities positions. Like I said, we have 4 locations in Saginaw that need to be maintained, cleaned, and overall just taken care of. And then our shipping and receiving department, both for what we need internally and what we need to move around on behalf of our clients.
So I want to touch on, obviously, again, a lot going on, but how do we really take care of our Morley family? There's a lot of different aspects that go into that. So as you can see here, this is a picture of an ice cream sundae bar that we had on site back when we were able to be on site and more consistently as a team. But we're just going to kind of touch on some of the more specifics of, why Morley and why this family that we keep hearing about. But I just want to touch on my favorite week, probably of the year, is Customer Service Week that we celebrate every October It's a themed week. It's a national like customer service week. Actually, Morley just doesn't toss out a random week to celebrate it, but it's a ton of fun. It reminds me a little bit like your high school or college homecoming week, where you have like theme days and everyone is competing one against one another to have the coolest team outfits and do all the activities and win all the events and lots of prizes. And it's just an absolute blast. Brings me lots of joy. But want to touch too on the health and wellness. It's another huge piece. It's important naturally. So no matter what group our associates work in, we take care of them and put our Morley family first, as we've again kind of been threading through the conversation here. Some of the health and wellness benefits available to our full-time associates are health insurance, paid time off in our holidays, wellness program, and then various other programs that we have, including quitting tobacco and managing chronic conditions. And I want to touch on the wellness program side of things. Obviously, where most of our team is remote at this point in time. So side note, when COVID had hit, we transitioned over 1,000 agents from being fully on site here in Saginaw to being fully remote in a matter of 3 days. So pretty wild how quickly things are able to work when you're in a privately held, family-owned business. It doesn't feel nearly as corporate as a lot of other areas might, but I digress. The wellness program side of things, again, with being more remote, we have more virtual walking challenges and such too. Even though those of us who do work along the Morley or within the Saginaw area, we do have free gyms on site that are available to our associates too. But we'll have Ryan touch on the financial benefits for us as well.
Yeah, so we do have a 401k program with a pretty generous match of from our employer of 50 cents on the dollar, up to 6% of your annual earnings. We have, the flex spending account and life insurance and short and long-term disability. We also have a pretty unique referral program where if you are a Morley associate and you refer someone to us and we hire them and they stick around for at least 90 days, for our sort of entry level positions, you would get $100 bonus just from giving us a name essentially, and then for some of our more niche roles, you could earn up to $1,000 bonus. So pretty cool.
Then we do have some different benefits just to make your life easier as well. So 24/7 free online access to doctors and like a nurse help desk almost, if you will, which is extremely beneficial, especially when you have those questions that come up or you just left the doctor's office and you're like, oh shoot, I forgot to ask this one or two thing. Benefits and claim help, and then the family financial and will services that are outlined here. And we consistently look, our payroll benefits is really great at always having their eyes open and having additional conversations to see other benefits and resources that we can provide our team members. So we recently added additional assistance for expecting mothers. Actually, I think it's a pretty cool app. We're able to just see a lot of different areas and resources from a knowledge-based perspective that you can provide. But we do support and look to support team members from all angles and really provide you with a well-rounded experience. So wanting to discuss in more details what it looks like to join the Morley family, though, from a recruiting perspective. Obviously, that's Ryan and I's bread and butter a bit here as our main focus. But I'll hand it off to you, Ryan, I guess, to get us started here.
Yeah, so you'll see a QR code on your screen right now. If you are interested, you can scan that and check out our current openings. But I just kind of want to walk you through what the application process looks like. Amy and I are both in leadership roles in talent acquisition, but both of us have worked pretty much every role on our team. So we've handled kind of each part of this process previously. So first, you would obviously submit an application. We do have a careers website, which this links to, but we also post on places like Indeed and ZipRecruiter. And depending on where you apply, you may be completing assessments right at the same time. But essentially you are submitting your application, your resume, you're answering some basic questions to make sure that the position will be a fit for you. Some positions are, specifically on-site here in Saginaw. Some are a hybrid of on-site and remote, and many are fully remote opportunities. So depending on how you apply, as I said, you may take assessments up front, or our team may send them to you a little bit later in the process.
So once your application does come through, our team will generally review your application within 48 hours of receiving that. And that's with our talent acquisition specialist role. So we have 3 different roles and functions within talent acquisition we'll touch on because you kind of navigate through each of those roles types throughout your journey with us. So our TA specialists, again, will really go through your resume, look for your experience. Typically for a lot of our entry level customer service roles in the BPO space, we're looking for someone to have at least 1 year of customer service experience, and that can be in any industry. It does not have to be in healthcare. If you're applying for healthcare, you do not have to have automotive experience if you're looking to move into the automotive sector as well. So keep that in mind. But if we think that we could be a good match, be sure to keep an eye on your emails and especially text. We've been using that a lot more frequently. Seems to be a great route of communication and preferred for a lot of our candidates currently. So we will send you over a video to give you some more insights on what the role consists of from a wage perspective. We'll go through a lot of what the hours operation will be, a couple other details, and dive into your background as well. After you complete those assessments and everything's looking good there. Now, if you have some questions or like, hey, I really would love to talk with someone, that's always an option. We're trying to expedite the process for you to make it a little bit more simple with the text and sending you the video with the information that you need. However, we do have our team members daily on the phone, having phone interviews and conversations initially with candidates quite a bit too. So we've been talking about assessments quite a bit. Let's touch on just what those are. So there's a handful of assessments. We, again, specifically speaking to our BPO space, the customer service roles that are most integral for us. We see the customer service assessment. Naturally, we also have computer navigation, which is a huge need for us. Data entry, so listening in to hearing something and then typing that out in an efficient manner. Writing assessment as well, just to look at those grammatical skills, and typing too. So typically our business lines look for around 30 to 35 words per minute as far as the typing pace goes and words per minute there.
Yeah, in addition to those assessments, we also have all of our candidates who will be working remotely complete a system scan, which will test their internet speed to make sure everything is both fast enough and stable enough for what we would need. And generally speaking, we look for at least 25 megabytes per second as a download speed and 10 megabytes per second via upload speed. Which most big providers these days, unless you're in a very rural area, are pretty easy to hit. So once you've completed all the assessments and the system scan and everything looks good, that's where you move into our second group within talent acquisition, which are our senior specialists. And they are the ones who will conduct a full Zoom interview. And a Zoom interview with us is just like if it was happening face to face. So we'll do a deep dive into your background, talk about your experiences, go over the details of the role just to make sure that things align there. And then we'll go into some situational questions about some things you may have experienced in your previous work life. Depending on the role, we may go through a mock phone call scenario with you of a sample of a customer interaction, or we may actually play a recorded call of a customer issue that came in so that you really kind of get a feel for what the position will be like. Now from there, if the senior feels that you would be a good fit, we try to move forward pretty quickly, and we'll very shortly after schedule a follow-up to go through an offer discussion. It's usually within like 2 to 3 days after the interview, or we'll notify you via email if there's some reason that we're not moving forward.
And from there, assuming you say, hey, yes, I accept, I'd love to move forward and are excited about the next steps of the process, so then you would transition from our senior talent acquisition specialist over to our talent acquisition coordinator team. So they help you with all of your onboarding. They are truly our matchmakers in heaven as far as knowing everything that comes from an onboarding perspective. So we do go through a full drug screen and background screen for all of our new hires and associates, naturally going through the virtual I-9 process, that verification process too. And some of our roles do provide equipment. So that's when you would be kind of shipped over your equipment. So you go through and make sure everything works and fits for you. You don't have anything malfunctioning. So you're ready to go for your first day with virtual orientation. So typically your first day from 8 a.m. to 12 p.m., you will be having that virtual meeting to go through orientation, all things benefits, go through a ton of more detail, learn a little bit about Morley's history, but you would be an expert at this point. And then start your training with your team and with your new team members at 1 o'clock in the afternoon and kind of go from there. But something else you'd experience throughout the process is we are, I would even say, obsessed, Ryan, with feedback. Maybe that's a little bit too, I don't know. We love feedback, the good, the bad, the ugly, anything you've got, please tell us. We want to know so we can ensure that we're making your experience as successful and simplistic as possible. We're not trying to burden anybody, but there'll be multiple different times that you'll receive different surveys. So we can read that feedback on a weekly basis. We read every single comment that comes through. Our entire team is sent out that information so we can be more mindful and adjust and adapt as needed to make that process more efficient for team members or for future team members, hopefully. So that's going to wrap up our prepared context and kind of conversation for everybody here this afternoon. So we appreciate you bearing with us and I hope that you learned quite a bit here today. But we'd love to open it up for any questions that you might have. And I think Gary's going to help us out with that as we go too.
Thank you, Amy. Thank you, Ryan. So Craig's also a colleague of mine, has been on. He's been pulling some questions together. I got a few as well. But first, we'll turn it over to Craig and let him ask some of those questions that were coming out of chat.
Sure thing.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Gary. Hello, everyone. Business relations consultant up in Northern Michigan, Prosperity Regions 2 and 3, here today gathering questions to ask of our presenters. I'll start with one of the questions that came through was talking about locations in Michigan. You mentioned Saginaw was an on-site location where you do some hiring. And then, of course, there was a lot of questions about which positions were remote. And you had mentioned that a lot of those were, that there were opportunities anyways that were remote. But we had questions about IT. Are there IT jobs that are remote? That was one. So we'll start there. Is there IT?
Great question. So I believe right now all of our help desk roles, a lot of our software developers are fully remote. However, there might be an initial training period where we'd have you on site for the first month or so, or at least a couple of days a week potentially, depending on the skill set and what the team needs. And they might have been able to get to a place now where they can train fully remote. It depends on when those needs come in. We don't have IT needs as frequently, but it seems like they are moving more into a remote type of capacity. But did you have anything else to add on to that, Ryan, or?
Nope. Yeah, I saw as we were given the presentation that there were a lot of, questions about remote work. And I would say the majority of our roles are available as fully remote. So you can live anywhere in Michigan, and depending on the role, sometimes you can even live in other states.
Okay, great. And then that remote, does that include the training time for a new hire as well?
Yeah, for most of the positions, yes, the training is remote as well. As Amy mentioned, for some of our more complex positions, we may have a period of training that is on site, but for like our entry level, like particularly our BPO positions, the training is fully remote. It's fully paid and can be anywhere from 4 to 8 weeks long.
Okay, great. Now, would that remote positions, would that include a program administrator position that you spoke about earlier?
So the program administrator roles, they are hybrid right now. So typically someone who lives within probably an hour or so of driving distance would be a good fit for that role as it sits today, just because there's a lot of printing and sending and receiving and all that good stuff that comes along with it.
Okay. Another question was on the customer service messaging agent, wanting to know what the job duties were of that position.
I'm going to give that one over to Ryan.
Yeah, so it's pretty much what you would expect. The main difference between a messaging agent and a phone agent is just how they're interacting with the customer. So you would be taking customer questions directly through a chat interface. It could be a text message that the customer is sending, or they could be on a web portal. But essentially, you are taking those text-based questions and you're having a conversation with them and helping them out. So very similar on the phone. It's just a difference of how you're actually communicating.
And we do have a couple of different focuses within automotive specifically for our messaging roles. So we have some that are more of a sales focus. So like if you were, live chatting with a large auto manufacturer, for example, and you had some questions about a specific vehicle or where can I find this one, or I'd love to test drive something, the person you're talking to on the other side very well might be Morley. So it could be more of a sales kind of effort to try and set up conversations with dealerships to find the vehicle you're looking for. Or as Ryan was alluding to, it could be more of a, hey, I'm having a concern or an issue, and then we're just messaging back and forth with them. As probably 95% of their focus, you might pop on the phone every once in a blue moon, but for the most part, strictly messaging there.
Great, thank you very much. The next questions revolve around travel. Someone had asked about what jobs would require travel, and then in addition to that, if a job does require travel, are vehicles provided, or is that someone has to use their own vehicle?
Great question. So it depends on the caliber of role. So I believe for the most part, we do have team members utilize their own vehicles as far as travel comes. However, all of your mileage and whatnot is reimbursed to make sure it's 50 evened out there at the end of the day. As far as the type of roles that are travel, mostly our exhibits and displays and our meetings and incentives team will likely have at least a little bit of travel, if not most travel, in those types of positions. So if anyone is more specific as far as like what specific job titles, we can get into that as well. But for our BPO roles, for the most part, you'll be specifically at home or on site here.
Okay, thank you very much.
Of course.
Switch gears a little bit, get on some technical questions. We had someone that was asking about having us repeat the upload speed for internet at home, and then does it matter internet is cellular versus cable / DSL?
Question.
That's a great question. So to reiterate, the speeds that we're looking for are 25 megabytes per second for a download speed and 10 megabytes per second for an upload. Those are kind of the minimums. We also look at things like latency and jitter, but those are a little bit, a little bit too detailed. As for the type of internet, because these positions, for the most part, you are interfacing in real time with customers, we do require that it is sort of hardwired coming into your house. So it would need to be a cable or fiber optic provider. Unfortunately, a cellular provider or satellite provider is not consistent enough to be successful with our roles.
And another main piece of that, as Ryan was mentioning, is the phone calls and conversations we're having with candidates. Oh my goodness, recruiting. Gosh, you recruit so long, and then everyone thinks a candidate's actually customer. With a customer, all of our, I guess maybe I shouldn't say all, most all of our phone systems are through the computer. So you're actually speaking via the internet, and that's why it's so important for us. We don't want dropped calls or missed calls or things like that.
That makes a lot of sense. Thank you.
Of course.
Next question. We had some questions on equipment as well. For the remote positions, does Morley provide the equipment needed for the job?
So for most of the roles, yes, we're actually leaning into a place where hopefully come July, we'll be able to provide for most all of our BPO positions. Right now, it's kind of split 50-50 if equipment is provided or not. As far as what it encompasses of when that equipment is provided, you're given, it's not a laptop. That's what I assume and like envision in my mind when I hear a computer equipment is given. It's actually a small like box almost. That's kind of the brain of your computer, if you will. And then you're provided 2 additional monitors. So you're actually working off the monitors that way. Provided a headset, keyboard, mouse, of course, an Ethernet cable typically as well. So I think I'm missing, Ryan, that package.
For some of them, we do actually use like a hard phone that still connects over the internet, but a phone we would potentially provide. Anything that you would actually need to be successful in the job, we would provide in that bundle.
And if you're talking to your recruiter and you're like, hey, I don't have the equipment I need, we're not just like, okay, thanks, bye. We very much look to find that need and fill that need, I suppose, that you have. So we would transition potentially to a different business line or area to make sure that we can still entertain bringing you on board if it's a good fit that way.
Okay, great. We had a couple questions on reasonable accommodations, particularly about your abilities to work with persons who might have some assistive technology needs, as well as a process for reasonable accommodations if someone needs to make a request. Can you talk a little bit about that subject for us today?
Yeah, most definitely. So we do have our HR consulting team that we partner with very closely. So obviously would love for you to bring this up to your recruiter. If that's not a comfortability level, that's fine. Our HR consultant team, so our associates transitioned from talent acquisition to our HR consultants and throughout the journey that you're with Morley. So either way, you have a lot of support that way. And I did kind of look up some insights and information because I haven't been here for nearly the amount of history Morley has. But we have in the past provided ergonomic chairs, desks, keyboard, special headsets. We've put screen magnifiers on desk screens for someone who might be visually impaired. We've also installed special software and tactical hardware for individuals who might be blind as well. So we've done quite a few different things in that way, and are always more than happy to see what might be an accommodable, geez, oh Pete's, a reasonable accommodation to see how we can make a good fit that way.
Okay, thank you. Another subject involves the question of part-time employment. Partially for those that are just looking for part-time, but also sometimes it comes into play with benefits. If someone's receiving Social Security benefits and they're unable to make too much in a month without impacting their benefits. So there are questions about working with people to work the hours they can.
Great question. So we do have just one area that we focus on that is strictly part-time. And it's one of our smaller focuses under the healthcare umbrella. And it unfortunately is strictly on-site. So that is a little bit of a bump there if someone's not around, again, the Saginaw area here. Every once in a blue moon, some of our specialized roles will be able to move into more of a part-time capacity, but very rarely do we see that. Just for the first time for the business unit I'm thinking of, Ryan, we ever accommodated someone as part-time, and that's someone who's been an automotive mechanic for like 15, 20 years, the type of expertise and level we're looking to bring them into. So not very often that are fully remote, unfortunately.
Okay.
Yeah, but when we do have a part-time position, like the one that Amy mentioned, the schedule is extremely flexible, and we've had situations where people, can't make over a certain threshold to receive their Social Security benefits. So yeah, we can definitely work with whatever sort of availability or restrictions that people have there.
Yep.
Great. Another question was on a specific position. If you're looking for anyone for recruiting talent or for acquisition, are there any openings in that area?
Within the talent acquisition team?
Yes.
Ooh, good question. We just brought on board a couple new individuals as we're kind of ramping up a bit right now. At the very moment, no, but is this because they think we're so fun, Ryan? I think it's because they might like us.
It has to be, yeah.
It
sure.
must be. There might be some more opportunities in the near future, but at the very moment, we do not have anything posted.
Okay.
Yeah.
And but we are a really fun group.
Yeah, we are. We're the best group by far. Those when we do have opportunities on our team, it is more of a hybrid situation. As you can see, I'm at home right now. Amy's actually in the office, so I usually work a couple of days at home, a couple of days in the office, and so does the rest of our team. So typically, we like to look pretty local to Saginaw for that individual as well.
Good call.
Okay, great. Another question on pay rates. Is that information that we can find with the listing of the openings that you have?
So Indeed does this really fun thing where if you don't tell them what the pay range is for the role, they guess and put it and tie it to the role. So unless it says company provided or something along that verbiage, as an FYI, as a job seeker, that's just Indeed making their best guess at what a role would be. So right now, today, Morley does not provide that information. We're hoping to get to a place eventually where we can. We do want to have that transparency with candidates. So it's not out there as of now, but that's something our team would be very happy to have a conversation with in your initial application. And one of the screener questions that goes through, hey, are you at least 18 years old, of age, and all these different things. One of the questions there is regarding wage. So we don't wait until the last minute to discuss that or talk about that. We do very upfront have that conversation and make sure we're finding a space that makes sense for you if we do have something available within that threshold at the moment.
Okay, thank you. The final question that I had talked about where we would send our resumes. So I thought maybe we pull Gary in at this time for him to take over with any questions he had and to discuss maybe the process between our agency and working with Morley and how we can get our candidates to your doors.
Sure.
Thanks, Craig. So yeah, I would say, based on conversations that Amy and I have had, the best thing you could do is apply at Morley, go through the process, and then as soon as you do apply, reach out to me, have your counselor reach out to me, get your information to me so that I can reach out to Amy and let them know, let their team know that you have applied for a job, so they can watch for your application / resume. So that's, I think, a process that will work really well between us.
Perfect. And here's that QR code again for you guys as well. We can just do that on until we conclude here.
And Amy, I have a question. I think, and I could answer this, but I know that you say customer service and people always wonder what that means. So could you give an example of all the types of things that you think apply to customer service when you say you want customer service experience?
Yeah, so yeah, that is extremely broad. Most definitely. That's a good call,
Right.
Gary. Thanks for bringing that up. So customer service to us is whether it be face-to-face or remote, right? You can learn and gain a lot of customer service skills just over the phone as our team members work on a daily basis. So whether you are a receptionist, whether you have experience being a librarian or assisting people, throughout the day, as long as you're having that human interaction consistently, it's not just like probably for like 10% of my day, I'm working with people outside of like your core team, for example. It's working with the public, individuals that might walk into a store or might message in for a need, for example. So where we kind of draw that line a little bit, Gary, is if someone has experience like stocking shelves or working in a warehouse. I don't know if we would overly classify that as customer service, even though you might be bumping into customers. That's not your main focus, right? Or role.
Absolutely.
Even though some people might have some questions of, hey, can I help me find the hot sauce, right? For example.
I think sometimes people don't realize fast food. You're
Exactly.
You're
Oh,
always
yeah,
working
for
with
sure.
customers constantly. So that's customer service.
You got
Yeah,
it.
retail, food service, healthcare. If you are working with people in a healthcare environment, that in particular is something that we find valuable for our healthcare customer service roles, because you've had that sort of experience before.
Another question I have is, and I know we're getting close to time, but you read a lot now about the conversation about working at home versus working in the office. There's some CEOs supposedly pushing for back to office, and I know you guys, in conversations with you guys were very pleased with that process, that journey to work from home, and how good it's been for your company as far as talent, right? And a lot of people like to work from home. Do you see you guys staying with that type of situation?
I do. What's tricky, Gary, is that we're in an interesting space where Morley has our own policies and procedures and expectations for team members, but ultimately a lot of those come directly from the client. So if a client tomorrow, for some reason, wants X percentage of our workforce to be on site, we'd have to look into how we entertain that. But I don't see that happening. There was conversation at one point, probably a year and a half ago, of that happening, and it never came to fruition. I think, again, because we've been able to be so successful as a team and an organization that way. I would be surprised if we go into that direction. Right now, I want to say when I looked last month, 85% of our workforce is fully remote. So it doesn't even step foot on site, never have and never will.
Great, thank you.
Mhm.
That's my questions. I want to thank you for taking the time with us today, both Amy and Ryan. Thank you to the audience for being here, to learning more about opportunities within Morley. If you have more questions, you can always reach out through your counselor to me. I can pass things along to Amy and Ryan. We can get your questions answered. And I'm going to put a survey in the chat, maybe. I put one in there earlier, up a little higher. See if I can capture that. So if you could please click on that survey.
You guys like surveys too? Man, love it, Gary.
Yeah, we want to make sure that we want to make sure we're meeting the needs of everybody, right? So I apologize, technical issues. We've been doing good too, right? Right, Tyler? The thing is, when you have a technical issue, don't panic. Just go through the motions. Okay, there's that.
Keep swimming.
There's that survey. If you could please click on that and fill it out. We'd really appreciate it. We want to make sure that we brought to you what you wanted from this business spotlight. And again, thank you, Ryan and Amy. This was awesome. I really appreciate your time and taking the time with us today.
It's our pleasure. Thanks for inviting us. We'd be happy to connect with
Yes,
anyone who
thanks.
has questions or anything further from here.
All right, everybody have a good day. And like most typical Zoom meetings, when we end it, you will end. So say goodbye now.
Have a good one. Thank you.
Thank you.